Welcome to Abuse Exposed, a podcast about the secret of abuse. Each episode, we deliver intriguing Christian and personal experiences on abuse and how to overcome it. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional mental or medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified mental health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical or mental condition. Now, here's your host, live from Texas, ISpeakMotivate.
Hello. This is ISpeakMotivate, and I'm very excited for you to join us here at the Abuse Exposed podcast, episode 40. If you're new to the podcast, we want to thank you for taking the time to listen and to educate ourselves on exposing the pain of abuse, breaking those stereotypes, and building a community. Those that are subscribed to the podcast and loyal supporters and listeners, thank you. Because one day at a time, we are breaking down those barriers of abuse. Now, you guys know that we've been doing quotes of the day and it's expanding upon them and things like that. So definitely underneath these episodes, keep the conversation going with your comments so we can collaborate as a community. Now, the quote of the day is, you survive the abuse, you're going to survive the recovery. You survive the abuse, you're going to survive the recovery. And a lot of people don't understand, and they have the misconception that all you have to do is leave. And it's easy peasy, lemon squeezy. You just walk out that door and then your life is back to normal. And you have this happiness that you've never had before. Total misconception. Okay? Because as soon as you walk out that door, that false narrative, that fantasy is screaming back at you saying, go back, you made a terrible mistake. Go back, you made a terrible mistake. Go back, you make a terrible mistake. You sure the abuser doesn't love you? You sure they don't love you? And in order to induce that guilt or shame, only the good memories come up of what you had together. Say y'all had a nice dinner that one time, or cuddled and had a movie night, or if your parents were abusers, the vacation that you had and you felt like you were bonding, things like that flash back to you all of a sudden. So it's definitely not easy transitioning from leaving to recovery, because like I said, leaving, you're not miraculously healed. Like, oh yes, it's hard, because since you're not in the situation anymore, you're more vulnerable to what actually happened to you, if that makes sense. So, for example, with this new vulnerability, you will have triggers and flashbacks. You will not be able to sleep at night. You will have night terrors. You know why? Because all that subconscious pain and stuff and trauma that was explained away, and to protect yourself, your brain put it in the back of your mind and made those trauma thoughts dormant so that you could survive. Because it would just be too much to have those harsh memories revolving in your brain while having new harmful memories from the abuser. So every time something happens, it gets tucked away so you don't have to go through that pain. at the moment. And so what ends up happening, I know definitely with me, I had a lot of night terrors. So I would be waking up in the middle of the night and feeling like I'm getting attacked. And because what's happening is, as you become more aware of the abuse, the more everything that happened to you comes to your mind. It just is what it is. Because the more you're out of the relationship and you're in a peaceful environment, you started your life, the more that the abusive memories pop up. They can come in flashbacks, those night terrors, nightmares, panic attacks, that hypervigilance that we were talking about, feeling like something's going to happen at any moment and you're trying to prepare for it the best you can to result in minimum impact to you. So you're doing all of this. Even me, I thought I saw a hallucination, but I did not. My therapist explained to me what was going on, which is so good about, going to therapy, because it breaks it down and they're open with you and they have the experience to assist you on your journey. So this is what happened. This was in the first or second month, I believe it's the first month of no contact with my abusive parents. So this is what happened. I went to sleep. Then all of a sudden I had to use the restroom. So I woke up, going on my way, through the hallway to go to the restroom. But I looked to my left, and on the sofa, sitting down, staring at me, is my dad. And I completely regress into a little girl, and I'm starting crying. I'm scared. I don't know what's going on. And then I asked my husband, I'm like, please get up. I had to use the restroom, but I saw my dad. And I'm just crying like a little baby. And he's surprised because he's asleep. So he's like, what's going on with her? And I, explained that situation to him, and I'm scared that I see my dad in the living room. I'm sitting down on the couch, and I'm just really, really scared. I can't use the restroom. And imagine this. I was 25 years old, scared out of my mind, went back to a little girl in my head, very scared. And then, so he stayed in the restroom with me until I used the restroom, and I washed my hands, and then he walked me back to the bedroom to make sure I felt safe. And again, 25 years old, not a baby, but I came back to that state because everything starts coming up, everything that you're concealing, and you're surprised at how much you concealed and how much you've been through after the abuse. It's just a real thing. And so I go to therapy, and I'm like, I saw a hallucination of my dad, and I just started crying. And I was scared to go to bed. And I was asking her, like, what is that? And she was like, it wasn't a hallucination. She said, even though I was awake, I was still in a sleep state. So that's why I saw my father sitting down, because I was still on a sleep state. And that memory, that traumatic memory, came up during that time. And so my sleep state wasn't shut off. That dream state wasn't shut off. So that's why I saw my father at night. And so it really brought a lot of clarity to me. I realized so much stuff about, this. When in recovery, if I speak about one parent over the other. I'll have a nightmare or a night terror over that parent, whichever one we talked about in therapy. There are certain things I can't do. You know how they say little kids, a certain time of night, they're like, look, we're not letting them watch scary movies at night. And for me is I can't, for me, because of being triggered and things like that, I cannot read any educational materials or auditory materials relating to abuse, because it makes me have extreme anxiety and be hypervigilant, because it brings everything back. Because as you learn to educate yourself, you're way more aware of your body and everything's spewing out, and you don't know where these emotions and feelings are directly coming from sometimes, and you feel like a crazy person, but you're not. You're just reacting to the abuse that was done to you, and everything's just coming to the forefront when you left that relationship. So remember, you survived the abuse. You're going to survive the recovery. So don't let anyone tell you any differently. You will survive this, and you'll eventually thrive. Recovery is a very hard thing to do because of the trauma bond, and it's like an addiction to love to that person. And so it is a harsh withdrawal period, which is that, first few months or year, depending on how you heal, because everybody heals differently and at different rates, because everybody's story is different. Even though it may be similar, abuse affects all of us differently. And so remember, you have this recovery, and it's just going to give you some tips on recovery. Always, every day, educate yourself on abuse, on healthy behaviors, on self-confidence. That's the stuff that we need to build ourselves back up. I definitely, read the Bible. I can do all things through Christ. I'm the head and not the tail, above and not beneath. Things that encourage me, and to reverse that false narrative of feeling like I'm not good enough. Another great thing is therapy. That will definitely help you with your abuse recovery journey. And don't worry if you don't have insurance. There are some therapists that will take you on a discounted rate. And how do I know this? Because I didn't have insurance that assisted with the psychiatric side of it. And so she heard my story, and she was moved, and she wanted to assist me. And it made me feel so good that she wanted to take, it on. And so sometimes they hear your story and they take you on at a discounted rate, and she discounted it not only one time, but 2 times, because she knew I was hurting. And she just wanted to help. So she was very, very sweet. My therapist, very, very sweet. Another thing that I would say is definitely be patient with yourself. Don't say, oh, I should be here already, or I slipped up and talked to my abuser. Like, I slipped up in the very beginning. I texted back thinking that if I